What is up? Welcome to the American Peloton. I am Jonathan Crane. I'm a mediocre Cat 2 crit and cross racer out of Birmingham, Alabama. Ben, I'll let you introduce yourself this time.
All right, I'm Ben, former collegiate bike racer, former elite semi-pro mountain biker, currently the head coach of Skyway Cycling. That's all I got.
And we are going to talk about American bike racing. This is episode number 2. Episode number 1 is up on all of the podcast platforms now. Should be if you look for it on one and you can't find it there. Tell me, but it should be on like every possible place you can get a podcast. We're doing these shows live on YouTube, and we are also putting them out as podcasts. So today, after episode 1, we like brainstormed all these different ideas, and I thought we talked about NCL last time. Let's talk about ACC this time, and then all of this stuff happened. So now we actually have a ton to talk about. I was worried about like, oh, are we going to be able to come up with enough topics? And now we have a whole doc full of a ton of stuff that has happened and is happening coming up. First thing we've got here is there was actually a crit that was streamed this last week. The CBR, which is like the sort of local but big local series out in California. They were streaming these races live, so I watched this while I was riding the trainer the other day. This is jumping in right toward the end, but the big headline here is that this guy on screen right here, Eddie Huntsman from Butcher Box, won this race. And Legion had a squad out here. It wasn't like a full. They're in the plain black kits. I guess they haven't done their kit reveal for this year, but they were out here. Justin was out here. Corey was out here. A couple other guys for Legion. Interestingly, Dante Young was signed up. He's on Blazers, but he was signed up as Legion, which the announcer of this race was confused by. But yeah, big upset, kind of, even though it's like a training race. But I mean, the biggest crit team in the country coming out with getting rolled by a solo rider. Super interesting finish where Huntsman got this break of 3. I'm showing it on the screen if you guys are listening to the podcast, not watching us on YouTube. I'll be looking at a little bit of the stuff we're talking about. But yeah, Huntsman got a break of 3 going, last like 10 laps of the race, and as soon as they started coming back, he jumped away from that break. Justin and Corey really lined it up in the field, and they just didn't get back to him. It's cool that they were able to stream these races, though. Ben and I were talking before about we think that this is going to be like the new sort of standard for crit races as the technology gets better and it gets easier and less costly to stream. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I think like we were kind of talking. I think in 2024 to be considered like a quote unquote real race. You're going to have some sort of live streaming or video component to it. I mean, drones are sub $500 now. I mean, it takes a couple iPhones and a couple tripods to get like a full 360 of the course. Yeah, so like the live stream, it's kind of going to be if you want to be a real race, you're going to have some sort of component.
I think that's good news probably for crit racing in general, just because it's going to be possible to get so many more eyeballs on it, and it's going to be less of a budget for a race. I think it's going to be less of your overall budget is going to go into making a stream, whereas in the past it's been these big, you've got the guy with the TV camera, full like TV sort of live sports production type setup. I think this stream, like, credit where credit is due, it was awesome to be able to watch this race. It wasn't up to the level of like those full production, like the ACC or the other crit series in the past, USA Crits, but it does exist, and I think it's going to get better. So they're doing something that's like halfway there for like a tenth of the money, I think.
Yeah,
And you
I mean,
mentioned drone shots. I think there's a drone shot in here. You can talk. I'll scrub around and try and find a drone shot.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like live streaming is so becoming so affordable. And remember, like even 2, 3 years ago, having any sort of stream was reserved for national level high end races, and now it's coming down to almost any event with any sort of production value can produce a decent stream. So I think
Yeah,
it's going
so
to eyeballs to everything as well.
mid race they had these drone shots that were pretty helpful in actually seeing like the shape of the group and how hard everyone was going. I think again, not to the level of like the ACC streams, but essentially it was one guy producing these. Ray Mars, it sounds like, was the guy who was producing these streams. I think as these things, and this was the first one of the year also, like I think probably these CBR streams will continue to get better throughout the
Mhm.
course of the year. But yeah, Legion kind of getting rolled by ButcherBox a little bit. I'm sure they're disappointed in that. I'm sure they're gonna get their stuff together a little bit and not let that happen
Yeah,
in
yeah.
the
I mean, it's
future.
January, right? Like
Yeah,
it's insane that there's bike racing in January to begin with. So I imagine they're not sweating it too bad. If
right.
anything, Corey's probably sitting like, oh, I was second and or third, and like
Corey
I've
was
only been doing
second. Yeah,
base. Yeah, and I've only been doing base. Like, great, I'm going well. That's probably their takeaway from it, honestly.
yeah, and they didn't have the full squad out there, but you expect to see Justin and Corey going for the win this early. So on Legion News, we kind of teased it in the description of this podcast. After the last one, we got uh, we got some. I don't want to say rumors, but several people sent us a potential schedule, basically, that I want to talk about a little bit. Um, so it looks like we talked about how NCL was kind of like a permutation of the Legion Lions Den crypt model. So it looks like they are pursuing that even though NCL is happening. So this was sent to us by several people. It's kind of a rumored schedule. So you got the NCL races at the top here, and this all tracks with the article. An article came out yesterday about NCL Miami #1, and all the rest of these dates. You got April 8th Miami, then Atlanta, Denver, Washington D.C. But then where it gets interesting is the races labeled CRT on here. That supposedly, and this is coming from multiple sources who have said, here's the rumor and here's the schedule, and they've all sent the same rumored schedule. So not to put anyone on blast, but this is what's floating around in the ether out there. All these CRT races are going to be the new Legion series. So it looks like they're
Yeah, I
going to
think
have September and October, 3 races in September, 3 races in October.
yeah, I think that's 6 races is probably better for like a series. I think everyone the consensus is 4 races is barely a series. I think 6 is good. I think they're a little late in the year, maybe. Like we kind of mentioned last episode, October is like kind of cross season.
Yeah, I
It's like
mean,
on the
I hate
bubble.
that.
Yeah, like it's on the bubble where cross season like truly starts like in November, but there's cross racing in October. So that 10/28 is like a little late in the year, especially when there's literally a race that happened on January like 21st. So
Yeah,
it's going to be a long year for a lot of people.
yeah, I'll say I've got mixed feelings on how late those races are because I do hate everything gravel and now even road bleeding into cyclocross season because I love cyclocross. That's like my favorite thing. So I feel like cyclocross has kept itself compact, and in this this is cyclocross season. It's not bleeding outside of that, and I kind of want everyone else to like respect that that's cyclocross season, but that may not be the case. Another interesting thing I see here looking at it is we got two like pro level Miami races on the schedule. So one
Yeah,
in April and then another one in September. That's interesting. And also the New York City one on here, I don't think that's Harlem Skyscraper. I could be wrong there, but looking at the schedules I was looking at, that doesn't seem to be when Harlem generally falls. So another race in New York City, that's not Grant's Tomb, that's not Harlem Skyscraper. I don't know. I don't know if that's going to be a new one, if there's a venue that's been used in the past that they're going to reuse, or what the deal is there.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at the schedule, and there's not like each of these 6 cities that CRT is doing, there's not like a huge standout crit race in really any of those cities. So it'll be interesting to see like if they're using new courses or if they're leveling up an existing race that maybe hasn't gotten a lot of national attention.
Also,
Um,
San Francisco's got I mean, they've had the fixed gear crit series in the
yeah,
past, and then also like Bay Climb, but they've got, is it called Giro de San Francisco? There's a crit there that I'm at least aware of. I
sure.
think it's called
Yeah,
Giro de San Francisco, but it's actually a crit. And like I see big name people in California doing that one, but I don't think it's
so it's like
normally
a
that
big
late.
regional race. Like it's a big regional
Yeah,
race. Yeah,
totally.
it's kind of like
So
Hammerfest is to us in a way.
yeah, exactly. Which Hammerfest, while we're talking calendar right here, and we're gonna come back to calendar, but because we're gonna get into ACC at the end, we're gonna kind of talk about the rumors, talk about some teams and transfer stuff, and then we're gonna get to the ACC. So we'll talk more about how the whole calendar is shaping up when we get to the ACC talk. Um, but Birmingham Hammerfest, which is like our local crit that was USA Crits the last year that was a thing, and then it was not on a national calendar last year, but like Legion was there, Blazers were there. It was kind of like the first big like tune-up race for a lot of those guys.
Yeah.
It was really cold last year, but it was not on a series. We just got an announcement that it's going to be later, but they haven't said when yet.
I
So
was I was kind of hoping before like the locations for each of the CRT races were coming out because they had said, "Oh, it's going to be later." I was like fingers crossed, hoping Hammerfest is going to make a CRT because Legion likes to go to Hammerfest. Like almost like a solid chunk of their PR photos they took in Birmingham. So I was like, if they
yeah,
really like Birmingham, maybe Hammerfest will get some sort of inclusion there. So I was sitting like fingers crossed, hoping for that.
yeah, I kind of had the same thought. I hope that there are so many calendars this year. I guess that's the big. It's like feast or famine. Like last year, this time last year, it looked like maybe we're not even going to have a national crit series, and now this year we have three. So
Yeah,
we've kind of gone like one extreme to the other. So I hope in the future maybe Hammerfest can get on one of those calendars. There's also Speed Week has got some dates floating around, and Hammerfest is not on Speed Week. So it looks like CRT is going to be creating new races rather than using existing ones, though. So
yeah,
maybe they're not looking to pick up. You know,
yeah.
I don't
It's,
know, but
it's not
there's
sort
a
of the
lot to
vibe.
pick.
Is
Yeah,
like they're like I don't like tinfoil hat. I really hope Legion doesn't like pick because they're in charge of it. I hope they don't pick courses that are Legion courses. Like
that's always
four corner
been.
flatty kind of
Yeah,
situations.
we'll probably have to do a whole episode on this at some point, but I see a lot of big pros and cons with the Legion thing. Like, I love how compact that schedule is. I think that's gonna like keep good attention and focus on it. Six
Yeah,
races that close together is a great idea. Um, I like that they are corresponding with the teams that they have. They have the geographically based Miami Blazers team, Legion of LA. They've got a Miami race and an LA race. I think there's a lot of good stuff, but the thing that I've always taken issue with the Legion like owning some teams and owning the league is like I hope they don't make them all, NASCAR races essentially.
yeah,
Because the races I like to watch the most have been the races that Legion does not do as well at. So your Tulsa Tough, Crybaby Hill, your let's see, what else has a big hill that I like?
I mean Snake Alley is the other standout there.
They haven't done Snake Alley, but
Yeah,
that's a course that I
right.
feel like they're
I mean,
avoiding it on purpose. Yeah.
Twilight. I don't think they did Twilight last year, but
No, they
like
did. They had a team
the
at Twilight.
okay,
Ty Magner really wants to win Twilight, but yeah, Justin was
yeah,
at Twilight last year and like just got dropped. He was coming off that collarbone injury, but yeah,
sure.
that's the kind of thing. Like they're not gonna have. I would be surprised if there was a course like the new Twilight course on the Legion series. so I don't love
Yeah.
that. While we're talking Legion rumors, though, Legion has announced a new team, which kind of leads us into the next topic, which is team rumor stuff, transfers, all that kind of stuff. So the team announcement, we kind of caught it early because Connor Saley, who was on Miami Blazers last year, was on the online swap meet group on Facebook selling all of his Blazers gear. And we noticed that and we were like, what's going on here?
Yeah, if you ever want like a sneak peek or like a spoiler for like team movements and stuff, just get on Swap Meet and like make sure you like follow all the pros that are on there because they'll
Yeah.
sell all their team gear like a month in advance, and you're like, oh, guess he's not riding for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Whoever is selling all of their gear in one big package is moving on to another team. So that's two big things. One new team being created, that is Austin Aviators. That's where he's going. That's where Saley's going. That is essentially another Miami Blazers, though. It's owned by Legion, if I'm understanding things correctly. Legion like owns these teams, and they are building the CRT like roster, kind of the same way NCL is, except that some of the people who own one of the teams also own the league, which is another like weird structural thing. But again, we'll get into that in a later episode. So that team's being created, Best Buddies team going away. So I wanted to start with where a lot of the Best Buddies guys are going. And we're not going to run a comprehensive list of like every transfer that's happening. Obviously, there are like hundreds and hundreds of transfers. So this is going to be like some of basically because we're talking ACC this episode. We're going to talk about some of the guys that were kind of like big movers and shakers in the ACC last year and where they're going. So Michael Hernandez also starting a new team called American Cycling, which is the most vague name of all time.
It's awful. It's like not even Googleable. You
Yeah,
know, like
it's
please someone hire an SEO strategist for this team.
right. And I mean, I guess you could say like this is the American Peloton podcast, but so we're also guilty, but I also feel like that's descriptive. Like every team that's racing in America is American Cycling. So this is
Right.
their website. I popped over here to see what I could find out about them. And I got this paragraph of just like marketing speak. And I'm noticing a trend, especially with doing the NCL episode last time. There's like an epidemic of just like boilerplate marketing nonsense going on in American crit teams. We are a group of cyclists, entrepreneurs, and investors who have created the only integrated marketing platform in the sport of cycling. I feel like integrated marketing platform is another thing that NCL, that's like straight from NCL's using those exact words in some other combination. And it also is totally unclear what it means. Uh,
Yeah, none
and
of that makes sense at all. Like,
yeah, and value to our fans, sponsors, and shareholders. Our cycling and business teams are recognized for their values, character, leadership, and results. Our vision is
also,
to.
I
Oh, go
I
ahead.
want to
Go
point
ahead.
out the character thing, and Michael Hernandez is like the poster child for the team
Yeah, he
with
is
the
one
Legion
of
fight thing.
two. Yeah,
Like,
one of two people who got a suspension for a fist fight last year. So
yeah,
I don't know. That's eh,
that's
it's
an
like the thing where
interesting.
you show someone a small apartment and you say like, oh, it's a very spacious apartment. You just like
You
if
haven't put
you
the
say,
furniture in it yet.
yeah. But yeah, this just like reminded me of the same kind of like unclear nonsense that it sounds like Ben was saying when we were looking at this before the podcast. It's like what someone would do if they are a pretty smart person, but they're not a copywriter, or they maybe don't understand cycling, or maybe a little bit of both. So it's
Yeah.
like it seems like an AI wrote it or something because it's just like taking words from other things like this and plugging them in. So anyway, that's American cycling. That's where Michael Hernandez is going. and he is taking Danny Summerhill, Ben Wolf, and Brendan Rim. You said it's
Yep.
Rim.
Rim, yeah.
I
Which I mean,
mispronounced it.
Danny. I mean, that's going to be a crazy strong team though, with like Danny Summerhill, like the crit OG, and then you throw in Brendan Ram, who's been racing in Europe a little bit with that Evo Pro team, doing a lot of like
Yeah,
Belgian like Kermesse style racing. I'm sure he's absolutely flying after a year or two of that. So I think they're going to be like a real team to watch out for, especially with how strong Michael Hernandez was last year. So they're going to be really fun to watch, I think.
yeah. So an interesting thing there is like Michael Hernandez and Alfredo Rodriguez were kind of like I would say top two guys last year on Best Buddies, and now they are split
Yep.
up. So Rodriguez, who was leading the ACC before he had a crash last season, he is going over to an NCL team this season. So we've got this like musical chairs game going on here where NCL is soaking up a lot of the teams that are dissolving, which we also think that maybe Wildlife Generation is folding. It's a little bit unclear. It looks like they were having trouble getting a sponsor, and that was the last thing we could see. And then I noticed Cormac
Yeah.
McGeough was in that race, the CBR race we were just looking at, and he was not signed up as Wildlife Generation. And then you got a couple Wildlife Generation guys going to American Cycling. You got a couple of Wildlife Generation guys going over to NCL.
And a
Like,
couple going to human powered health as well.
yeah,
So it seems like they may not have like a team this year.
yeah,
Unfortunately, you hate to see a team fold.
yeah. Especially Wildlife Generation, they severely underrated. I think they didn't race. They raced a lot of like like Tour of Turkey, like
Yeah.
interesting races, but not races that people in America are following a ton.
I feel
I
like
did a
they
little
did like
bit.
a really cool series like in Portugal, maybe
Yeah,
that Scott McGill ended up winning, which like races like that were like UCI 2.2 races, like just
yeah.
barely outside of the American like Joe Martin
hmm
1.1 thing, you know.
I'm glad you mentioned that because that reminds me of something I meant to mention with American Cycling, which is that they're also bringing over some guys from the Emmanuel Eberry second bike team, which was a team that, if you were watching this channel last year when I was watching along with a lot of the live streams, uh, they were really animating the races, and it was a team that every time they would come up, I would be like, I don't know any of these guys, and it was because they were all South American, but they come from races like that, those sort of like 2.1 Central American races that are really high level racing, but just like people in North America are not following them to the same degree. A couple of those guys are
Yeah.
coming over to American Cycling, which is cool, but also makes the name American Cycling more like what? Because you have a
Yeah.
bunch of South American guys, so it's like even
Yeah.
less specific.
I also Ashton in the comments just said that Brendan also won Clarendon Cup solo at Armed Forces Classic. That's a good
Yeah,
reminder. I completely forgot he did that.
yeah,
Which, yeah, I mean that's a crazy.
that's a huge
I
one.
mean, we talked last episode about how hard Armed Forces Classic is, like 100K crit and all of that. So
That's another, as
yeah,
we're talking about things Legion is not going to do. I would be very surprised if we're seeing 100K crits in the Legion
there's
series,
there's no way.
which again, like these are the things I like to see. I like these. If you watched this channel last year, you know, like the weird ones are the ones that get me the most excited. So I hope that that's not the direction CRT goes because I do think it'll have a lot of eyeballs just with like the star power of Justin and Corey. And unlike NCL, Legion does know how to promote something. So I think that all of their like Instagram content, like when they post videos, we're not going to be able to watch them on here and crack on them like we did those videos last week. Which, if
Yeah,
you missed last week, go watch the first like 10 minutes. The
I mean,
NCL put out some garbage.
even their like Austin Aviators announcement was like just a picture of like Justin Williams with his feet up in a T screen, showing an image of like the Austin logo, the Blazers logo, and the Legion logo, and that's it. That's all they had to say, and it just like that was. I mean, and everyone talked about it immediately.
Right.
Um,
But it was at
if they know
least,
how to do it.
even though that's like a simple announcement, it's like clear what it is. That's
Right.
part of the
Yeah.
NCL thing is like they're not saying enough in some regards, and then they're saying too much in terms of the like marketing speak nonsense that's like confusing me further.
Right.
Um, Danny Estevez also, he formerly on Best Buddies, everybody on Best Buddies either looking for something new or just not racing this year, but he is headed over to Miami Blazers. Uh, he podiumed at Gateway, Harlem, Armed Forces. Again, speaking of those races, he was crit champ 20. Oh, it's right here in front of me. 2021 USA Elite Road Race and Criterium National Champion. So
I think he's a
another,
good. I think he's a good spot in Miami. I think he's going to fill. We hadn't mentioned Clever yet, but he's going to fill that Clever-sized hole in Blazers. I think.
yeah, we're gonna get there. I've got my list in chronological order here, but
Yeah.
definitely
So I apologize
Clever's.
for skipping ahead, but
Yeah,
I
no
think he's
worries.
in a really good spot being on Miami.
So this is kind of the group of people going to Blazers, and this is a big one. So Brandon Fury, Monk, I feel like he last year was kind of like a coming out party for this guy. I mean, he's always been good, but he won the ACC overall. And again, this is the ACC episode, so I feel like I got to point that out. But he won the ACC overall through like just consistency last year. He was with Project Echelon, but he's moving over to Miami Blazers. Super consistent last year, and another guy who's like, I think Blazers is coming out like net neutral, if not maybe even a little bit net positive, despite all the guys they're losing.
Yeah, I think they're going to come out net positive. I think a couple guys who left and like the guys who are coming in to the Blazers are probably filling in some gaps and then some.
Yeah,
I think.
totally. Then we got Spencer Movanzada, who apparently, I don't know, maybe he's on Instagram and I couldn't find it, but didn't come up readily available. But he's been on Butcher Box for several years, and he is leaving Butcher Box to head to Blazers. He's another guy who I was kind of looking at last year, and he was definitely there and definitely animating things. I think the sense I get from him is that he was a little bit more focused on college last year than racing, but he's still just like an extremely talented racer. He was
Yeah.
in the crazy break at Athens Twilight last year, that like lapped the field, and he was doing a lot of that work. Won Winston-Salem day 2, third at Athens, won the Elgin Crit and Intelligentsia. So not a guy you heard about a ton last year, but a guy who was like consistently in the top 10. Probably the only Butcher Box guy you were hearing about a lot last year.
Yeah, he's going to be one of those like sleeper horsepower kind of guys that I think Miami was maybe missing a little bit last year. So exciting to
I feel like
see him go and kind of elevate that team a little bit.
that's a perfect segue to the next guy I've got up here, which is Frank Travieso, who is leaving Blazers, who was kind of their like time trial horsepower. When I think Frank Travieso, I think getting off the front, driving the brake for several
Yeah.
laps, just an absolute diesel engine. And with him leaving and Movanzada coming in, again, that's like almost a 1-for-1 as I see
Yeah.
it. Movanzada maybe has a tiny bit more kick than Frank, but I put them both in that same bucket of a guy that wants to get away and wants to drive a small brake.
Yeah. Yeah. He's kind of like the OG, one of the OG like crit breakaway guys. I remember him when he won Twilight was crazy. And
He's won
so
he won San Rafael pretty like maybe that was 2019
yeah.
or 18.
Yeah.
And that was after he like retired, quote unquote, for a year, and then came back and was racing like solo on some team that was basically like, you know, he kind of more of a bro team, and he won San Rafael that year. So
Yeah.
I think he found a little bit more balance and came back into the sport there. But yeah,
Yeah.
he is he's going over to the NCL. And then we've also got Clever Martinez. You jumped the gun on this one a little bit, but he is going
Yeah.
from Blazers to NCL as well. He's been one of the most exciting guys to watch recently, and I'm this is one of the moves I'm most excited for because, and you know, like tinfoil hat time. How much is he really going to chop Justin and Corey when they're writing his checks? And
Right.
that may not be like, I'm sure it doesn't have Justin's name on the check from Miami Blazers or whatever, but like on some level that's on the in the back of your mind, you know?
Right. Yeah, you're not going to
Like,
chop the guy who's in charge of writing your check. You
yeah, you're
know,
coming into the
like you're
last
not going to
corner.
chop him.
You're coming into the last corner and you see the guy that owns the team that you ride for leaving a little door open on the inside, you know, maybe you question that and just that split second. But I think he is one of the guys that like has the ability, and he's proven it. I guess it was 21 at Crybaby Hill at Tulsa. He
Yeah.
was like one of the only guys the year that Legion just dominated everything absolutely. Um, he was one of the only guys that was able to infiltrate their train, and at Crybaby Hill he got like in the middle of the Legion train and really disrupted them. He's definitely got that kick, and I think
Yeah.
I'm excited to see. I mean, we don't know what the NCL teams will be doing outside of NCL, and we do think that Legion will not be doing the NCL races. But my hope is that at some point they'll cross paths this year, and it'll be
Yeah.
an interesting battle.
The like clever like Intelligentsia Cup this year was like a real like almost like victory lap for him in a way. Like his ride there was incredible.
Yeah,
And I think that kind of showcases his talent level when there may not be another factor involved in his
yeah,
decision making mid race.
right.
Like to say
When
that
he's
in the
off the
most like
leash,
yeah
when he's got the like the earpiece out, you know, like he's taking the
yeah
DS out of his ear and he's just going for it. He can do it. Yeah, he won
yeah
overall at Intelligentsia last year. That was his big one, and he'd been kind of searching for that big win for a couple years. Finally
yeah
got it last year. Got a new team this year, which I think like the money must be pretty good on these NCL teams to be taking guys away from Blazers. So, you know, hopefully he's got the budget and support he needs, and we'll see some more explosive racing from him this season.
yeah.
So this brings us over to Connor Saley, which is where we started this whole conversation. But he is basically making a lateral move from from Blazers over to the new Aviators team, which they have not released their full roster yet anywhere that I've seen. If anybody's seen it, drop it in the chat. But yeah, he's going to the new Austin Aviators, which is like, you know, Legion 3 or Miami Blazers 2, you know. It's another one of these teams.
Someone's asking if Legion lost their Swift sponsorship, and we don't have that knowledge. Like they haven't released the kits yet or anything, so it's
Yeah,
hard to say. They're racing those blacked out kits. I didn't see a Swift logo on it, but that's not necessarily indicative
I
of
want to
losing a
say I did
sponsorship.
actually. I saw a
Okay.
I want to say I saw a picture, like a podium picture from the CBR race, but tiny little logos going down, and I think I did see a Zwift on there, although
Okay.
again, tiny little logos. Ashton in the chat is jumping ahead to the final guy I wanted to talk about here, which is Iman Lucas. Iman, so I came into the sport of crit racing kind of from like the fixed gear side, and Iman was big in the Red Hook crit scene. He was on the team with I guess it was that Rocket Espresso team with like Alec Briggs, sorry, Alec,
Yeah.
not Alex, with Alec Briggs and Justin Williams was on that one year, and I think Aldo Ilsich, but he's a powerhouse. He's been in Belgium for a few years, just getting,
He's
you know, strong, getting
yeah.
very strong over
He's
there.
he's got some horsepower for sure. Um,
Yeah.
he's going to be one of
So
those big engine guys they're going to have to watch out for.
yeah, it looks like all the names we're seeing. We got a few more being dropped in the chat. Connor White from CS
Yeah.
Velo. Connor White was also very. He was very active in that CBR race. I watched in the
Yeah.
first half of that. He was going. He was going for some preems and stuff. So yeah,
So Ashton's saying Travis Longfellow from Ride Bikes is.
okay. So
Is he
yeah,
saying that's in Austin? He's going to be a part of Austin Aviators.
yes, yeah. So
Okay, so
what's
that's
so
interesting to me.
Travis Longfellow from Ride Bikes is on Aviators, and he has got them on Vitus bikes. That was part of the announcement, is that Vitus is their
Okay,
bike sponsor.
okay, I missed that piece.
Remind me who Vitus is though. Is Vitus, that's not the Walmart brand, is it? That's another.
No, that's
Ventum is the
Phantom.
brand that the Walmart guys own.
Yep.
I think Empire is the only team on those, like, at
Yeah.
this level.
Yeah, and shout out to Empire for sharing some sponsorships and Pat Casey for being awesome.
Yeah, they were kind of coming out of nowhere animating some races and stuff last year. Definitely doing a lot with a little last year as like a first year team, going up against Legion and stuff, getting in some breakaways, making races interesting.
And then also you don't have them here, but I did want to shout out to like Southeast kind of all stars, Matt Guevara and Brock Mason.
Yeah,
Brock Mason having like a huge coming out party last year.
yeah,
Just having crazy results and crazy strong rides all through Speed Week at Twilight. Matt Guevara having another crazy year, starting off this year crazy, beating Ian Boswell at the Mississippi Gravel Cup. They're going to be on
so
ride bikes.
are they both on ride bikes? Matt's on
Yes.
ride bikes. They're both
Matt's
on
on
ride
ride
bikes.
bikes. Yeah, they're both on ride bikes,
Cool.
which I think is going to be cool. I think that's going to help level up that ride bikes program. Take them from sort of that. I don't want to use the phrase bro team because that's not what they were, but definitely more of like we're a really, really fast group of like full-time workers and dads, and maybe take them up to that next tier of like winning a lot of races,
Yeah,
or at least being
yeah.
like really competitive.
Yeah, it seems like ride bikes is maybe going up a level this year, and I think we could do a whole show. This may be a future show where we just talk about like the most underrated people that we know about, but those are definitely two that I would put on that list of like
Yeah,
just criminally underrated people that are insanely strong. I mean, Govero, that's someone I've been beating my head against the wall racing Govero. I think I beat him at one of the 3 races in Mobile in 21. That may be the last time I beat him at all, but like just a guy who will drive a race,
he
power that's insane. For those
he
of you
was
guys that don't
doing.
know, he went head to head with Ian Boswell at a gravel race in Mississippi and bested Ian Boswell, who
Yeah,
still in pretty amazing shape. You know, like
it
lifetime
was
Grand Prix level.
it was like 4.48 watts per kilo for 6 hours to win that race. Like it was ridiculous.
Yeah,
Forrest
absolutely
Howard's going to
insane.
be on ride bikes. Jay Hauk, or I hope that's how you pronounce your last name.
What about Brock Mason? Do we know where he ended up? He had a big,
Brock
talking about
Mason's on
underrated
ride
people.
bikes.
Okay,
Yeah,
also ride
yeah, yeah.
bikes. Damn, yeah. So they do have like just they're like the sleeper cell team for this year. They're the team.
They're
It's like all guys that I feel like no one's heard of unless you've been racing against them, but like guys that are secretly on like national level strength.
Yeah. Brock's like one of those guys where if he says, "Okay, I'm going to do this thing," he focuses on that and then does it. Like
If you
there's been some like if you know the Brock Mason kind of backstory, the things he's like, "Oh, I'm going to break a 2,000-watt sprint," and then he goes trains and does that, right? So I'm going to be cool. It's be cool to see if he like focuses on the crit thing. I think he could be a real national level competitor if that's what he's 100% focused on.
I think he proved that he was racing for that storage squad team out of Atlanta last year and did all
Yep.
of Speed Week. And if you were watching this channel, I was watching along with most of the Speed Week races, and yeah, I kept saying like, wow, Brock Mason, he's in this breakaway again, or he's, and he was up there with
Yeah.
all of the big name teams that we were just talking about, the transfers, and severely, I don't want to say undersupported and undergunned, but just like on a local team. So
Yep.
yeah, definitely stepping up. Um, Moving on from transfers, let's talk about the ACC. So it's weird that the ACC is like the legacy series now, and it's
It's
1 year old.
yeah, it's like the only tenured one, but it's like a startup.
Yeah, yeah, it's still very new, but also it's new and it's also the oldest one.
Yeah,
Schedule wise, it looks like we're getting a lot of the same. Sunny King a little bit later this year than it was last year, but that's the start, and that is another one that's local to us. That's
yeah.
where I broke my hand last year. I'm going to try not to do that this year. I'm
That's like that crash, kind of a legendary crash. Like I feel like
Yeah,
the
it
it kind
popped
of went by.
off.
Crash went viral.
Yeah, it was on Crit Drama. It was on all the things. I got a video about it. If you if you want to see that crash, go watch my Sunny King video from last year. I really want to get a top 10 at Sunny King before I get old and slow, and it may not be this year because it is. I'm coming off another injury. I broke my leg skateboarding in December and still can't walk fully. But I'm hoping to take February to start getting strong again. So I plan to be racing at Aniston, but I think we'll probably be racing for Rob and or Alex on our team. But and
Yeah,
that'll be the Cat 2 race. But the pro race, it's going to be awesome to start the season. So we're doing this podcast about American racing, and we're going to be at the first big one. The two of us for sure.
oh yeah. Hopefully racing and be able to watch the Pro One live, and I don't
Yeah,
know, maybe we'll like vlog it or something stupid and like
we'll we'll
make it
have
fun.
content for sure. Uh, yeah, I love doing the Sunny King Cat 2 race, and then you've got just enough. There's like a little break where they do like a kids race and stuff, so you got just enough time to like sit in your car and like collect yourself, try and eat something from the little street festival, and then you can turn around and watch the pro race.
Yeah,
Um, it'll be interesting to see who shows up at Sunny King because I think that's going to be an indicator. The big X factor here is like we don't know other than like the Legion based teams doing CBR and the NCL based teams doing NCL. We kind of don't know who's doing what because in addition to all of the stuff we've listed, so that's 4 NCL races, 6 CBR races, and then we got what, nine here? One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine
yeah. I mean
on this
that's
calendar.
19 race weekends.
Yeah, and a lot of these are parts of like June 17th, Tour of America's Dairyland. That's going to be one of 7 races. So probably like the teams that go to do this Toad race that's a part of the ACC are going to do the rest of Toad. Then you got Speed Week, and then you got all of the stage races, which we haven't even touched on this show. I think that's probably its own show, but you
Yeah,
got Valley of the Sun, Redlands, Joe Martin. It's going to be a heavy, heavy year. So I think we're going to see a lot of splintering.
yeah. I think it's going to be interesting to see because there's going to be maybe 10 to 20 riders, maybe 2 or 3 teams that decide they're going to try and do all three. And from like a coaching perspective, you look at somebody who's trying to race and be competitive from April 8th to October 28th. I mean, that's a really, really long time to like try and be winning races and trying to be competitive. So it'll be interesting to see who does all of them and what races they're actually gunning for and which ones are coming into peak form for. Like
Yeah,
what's going to be the priority?
yeah, that may be. I mean, that may be the answer to what we opened the podcast with, which was the CBR race and Legion kind of getting upset a little bit with Huntsman taking the win over Corey. Corey did get second. He won the field sprint for second. But I mean, if their priority is their own series, which you would think that they want to show well at the series that they're putting on, and that series goes until October, you just can't be good for most of the year like
Yeah,
that, or you're going to have to peak twice or something. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Legion at some of these races, but like there's a little bit of a dip in the middle just looking at, I'm going to run this schedule real quick. We got Sunny King on May 6th, Tulsa Tough on June 9th, Tour of America's Dairyland on June 17th. Boise is on July 8th, Salt Lake on July 15th. So July is going to be pretty heavy. And then Intelligentsia on July 29th. And Intelligentsia is another one that's a whole week. You're probably not going to see teams dropping in just to do that one. Then
Yep.
Littleton August 5th, Momentum Indy August 26th, and Audi Gateway St. Louis September 3rd. So that's going to run like right up until the beginning of CBR. So I would think that a team like Legion, anyone really who's going to target CBR is going to have to kind of like take a reset in the middle, this kind of
Yeah.
July block that's all ACC stuff, maybe lesser priority.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but I think we may see like a dip in Intelligentsia Cup turnout, maybe. Like if teams are doing NCL or doing the early and then doing CRT, you're kind of thinking that Intelligentsia Cup week is timing wise gonna be where a lot of those guys decide they're gonna take it easy. I hope it's not the case because that's a lot of racing that could be really, really high level though.
Yeah, totally. So this is something I wanted to bring up is like people keep talking about like road racing in America, it's dying, it's going away, it's on the back foot or whatever. But like there is so much racing that's
There
all
is.
trying to be like kind of pro level racing. There is more racing than there are teams maybe this year. So we may see some of these like intelligentsia you were saying being a little bit thin. And I'm trying to decide like if this is good or bad, if this is like a good indicator of where the sport's going. And I do think something I've said in the past is, you know, American racing can just be what it is. Like it doesn't have to
Mhm.
be. Um, I think when we were doing Tour of California, Tour of Utah, we were trying to make American racing into European racing. We were kind of doing too much. Like that was too big of
Yeah.
an investment. I think the proliferation of crit racing, we're gonna have to start taking it seriously, and like people are gonna have to be able to make a living at it and stuff. But I think with these series, there's going to be enough prize money this year that maybe a few more people can than in years past.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, kind of going back to we were trying to make like Tour of Utah and Tour of California, this like European style racing in America. American racing can just be American racing, right? It's kind of no one's like if you think about bourbon's like distinctly an American thing. No one's trying to change that. We can have crit racing and it be distinctly American, and your Quinn Simmons and Mateo Jordensons and Magnus Sheffields, if their talent is for European racing, let them go do the European stuff, and have the
That's
American racing for
yeah,
that. A whole different. It can be a whole different thing.
that is one thing that like I have gotten a lot of flack on this channel for not having 100% drank all of the Legion Kool-Aid all the time. And
Yeah.
I feel like people are generally in two camps. Either people who like absolutely hate Legion and no matter what they do, they will give them zero credit, or people who love Legion and Legion can do no wrong. And because I'm in the middle, I get hate from like both sides of those. So, one thing I'm going to give Legion credit on right now, one thing that I really like about Legion is that part of their whole deal is they want to say like we're trying to do American racing not as a pathway to like make it to Europe, but as like making American
Yeah.
racing a sustainable thing. Which, like we'll see if that's possible. And I've got some questions about whether the model that they are trying to make will be sustainable for other teams. I think the thing where like Legion is the name of the team. It's definitely a good idea for fans if teams are not named after the sponsors, because when the sponsors change, like Wildlife Generation was essentially Jelly Belly, but most people don't know that because there was a drop off. It was Jelly Belly for a long time, and then it was Wildlife Generation. Both teams were. It was Danny Van Hout running the teams, but
Yeah.
and it was same staff, whatever. But you're like starting again from scratch every time, and Legion is trying to buck that. It seems like NCL is trying, you know, NCL basically
Yeah.
seems like maybe stole all of their ideas from Legion, but it seems like they're on that same wavelength. Now, the question I have is like, are title sponsors going to pay for teams? Is someone going to pay title sponsor money for a team that they're not the title sponsor of? And if not, how are you going to generate that revenue? And like people have floated a lot of ideas, ticket sales, merchandising, and some of that stuff is working for Legion because they've got the star power of Justin and Corey, who, you know,
Yeah.
love them or hate them, they got the big followings on Instagram and everything. They're on the covers of magazine, famous guys, but can we generate more people with that level of following? I guess that's the question.
And I think, unfortunately, with cycling, the merchandising thing is never going to come to fruition because it's almost like a frowned on thing to wear pro team kit.
Yep.
And so, like, no matter how it gets pushed, you're almost never going to see like anybody in whatever kit. Like like Legion kits sell. They sell out the raffle store every time they're up. So people are buying them, but I don't know if it's like it's because it's Legion.
Yeah,
And I
again,
don't know.
that's
You
like a
can't create. Oh, it's because it's whatever a million times over.
yeah. That's a thing that's working for Legion because they're Legion, and we'll see if that's able to scale and support other teams as they like spread that thinner with Blazers and with Aviators. And I mean that's something where like that's part of the idea of this show is like I want to be trying to like shine a light on some of these other people so that because in the past, like how would you have even followed or known what was going on? It took me years of like really caring and trying to dig up stuff to really like understand what was going on in American bike racing. And then right as we're getting right as you start to get the hang of like, okay, I understand USA Crits, like they've made a push and then they're gone, and then you got a whole new series. Things change a little bit,
Yeah.
so it's a constant like turnover process. And as much as I want to believe NCL is going to change that, I think it's too big of an investment. Yeah, we'll see. But
It's
to,
because the I want to touch on the it's too big of an investment piece
sure,
because I don't know if the vast majority of people know what you mean by that. Because what the NCL is doing, it's a pay to play model, and it's more than just regular race entries.
yeah,
And so it's not just, oh, we can pay $50 per rider to race in the Pro 1-2. It's you have to we don't it's not disclosed. We don't know how much it is, but they're saying, hey, if you want to race the NCL events, it's X amount to do it.
yeah. These
Um,
are
and
these are
it's
rumors that
fairly
like
high.
people after the first show. Thanks everybody for the feedback on the first show. Also, like a lot of people hit us up and with thoughts and just wanted to talk about cycling, which is awesome. That's what we're here for. But some people hit us up with thoughts on the NCL, and some of them with inside knowledge of like, hey, my buddy's going to this team, or someone I know got offered an NCL spot, whatever it is. Apparently, part of the NCL model is that it's very expensive to sign a team up for those races, and it's like, what teams in America even have the budget to pay more than they're already paying for entry fees? It's the Legion, the Blazers, Project Echelon, maybe the teams that have explicitly said they're probably not doing it.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure where that money is going to come from.
It's gonna be these like weird like UCI like weird like lower tier European teams, some Central American teams that come up. Like you had mentioned earlier, that Medellin team that
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that Superman Lopez is on. Like it's gonna be a team like that
Oh yeah.
that comes up to do it.
I guess we should have mentioned that in transfer news. It's like
Right.
if we want to expand the scope of American to include South and Central America, like Michael Hernandez American cycling team has done. But the team that the Colombian team, the Medellin team that came up here last year for Twilight and a few other races. I guess they did Speed Week and they did a few other things around that,
They
but they've got Superman Lopez this year, so he's moving into the American Peloton, as it
and
were.
and it wouldn't surprise me if Medellin was doing the NCL, um, because they have some Miami ties, and I know this because one of the athletes that I coach does like their fondo in Colombia every year, and they like come up to Miami often and lead some sort of group ride and do some sort of meet and greet type stuff, more than once a year. So it really wouldn't surprise me if
Yeah,
Medellin was doing NCL.
and they have some kind of they have some amount of familiarity with American crit racing because they did all those
Yep.
races last year. So what we're saying, this is the clip. This is what clip this and put this on TikTok. You may see Superman Lopez racing NCL crits this year. That's my like from half court jumper crazy prediction for the show.
That would be crazy fun to watch.
And then if they're here for those, there's only 4 of those. Are they going to stay and do some of these ACC races? So I want to bring it back to ACC for a minute. Last year, I want to say last year ACC, I didn't know what we were going to get because it was very like put together very quickly in the wake of the USA or not USA crits collapse. The former series collapsed at the 11th hour.
It felt like
ACC,
Rome. It was
yeah,
bad.
it was really bad. And so it looked like there was going to be no series. And ACC, if I'm understanding correctly, it's like a coalition of teams. Some people from Automatic were kind of heading it up, and a coalition of other people from other teams put together ACC and sort of took some of the most iconic races. I mean, I ran the list a minute ago, put them together and put this series together. And I thought it was going to maybe feel a little bit cobbled together and the coverage wouldn't be great and stuff. And they could have done more social media wise and promotion wise. But I will say all of the races had live streams. All of the live streams were really good. Like they pioneered some of the drone shots in races last year were like the best shots, best coverage I've seen of any
those
American
Sunny
crit
King
races.
drone shots, like particularly, were stunning. Like
Yeah,
really
they were
good.
insane. Great coverage, especially for something where like, Sunny King, what was it in like April last year? Like Sunny King was in
It
April, and I
was
think the whole
yeah.
series was announced in January. So they didn't have a lot of time to put that together. And they put together something that was really impressive, compelling to follow. I mean, I assume most of the people following this podcast have some amount of familiarity with me and my channel, and that was really the main thing I was following from an American perspective last year. And interesting storyline with like, best buddies kind of taking the lead, broken collarbone, Brandon Fury sweeps in, and then Project Echelon has to sort of like change their focus. Project Echelon, I feel like they really always want to be focused on the stage races, but they always get sucked into the crits. And we'll see if that's the case
Yeah.
again this year now that Fury's gone. They do still have Ethan Crane, who did really well in crits last year. No relation. He spells it different than I do. But yeah, it was an interesting series to follow last year. You had Legion kind of dipping in and out, and some races where they were able to do the Legion thing they did in 2021 and be super dominant, and then some races where, it didn't go their way at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it had like a good mix of events that weren't just typical high speed 4 corners. Honestly, shout out to ACC because all throughout it was kind of, you said earlier, it was kind of thrown together very quickly. I do want to acknowledge that throughout the entire year, they took everybody's feedback into account. They made adjustments when needed. And it looks like this year, like especially on the rider safety front, it looks like they might be changing up the barriers, doing different things that people have been asking for and expecting a little bit more. So I expect to see a real increase in the quality and everything in the upcoming season.
I think ACC is the bar. I think
Yeah,
ACC
I
is the
agree.
bar. It's like the Cadillac, and everything else has to measure. All these new series have to measure up to the bar that ACC has set. And so, like, we'll see if NCL or CRT can do that. I mean, they're both promising to do things new and different and exciting and whatever. But we'll see if they can put together a product that is more compelling and more polished. Uh, as much, we talked a lot about the NCL website last time and how bad all of their press is. And ACC doesn't have a ton of press. They don't have a Forbes article. They don't have all this stuff. But everything they have, I understand it, and it looks
Right.
professional. They don't have
Right.
any like pictures of flight deck shifters with the cable coming out, and like there's no like marketing gobbledygook on this website anywhere
You
that
know,
says like we're creating new synergies through integrated platforms. There's none of that, just like word
right.
salad.
Right. I think the only critique you could really give the ACC is how hard it was to find the live stream links at first. Like, once you figured out, oh, it's on outside, okay, got it. But it was like, especially for Sunny King, like I had to sit there like in Anniston, Alabama, on my phone, like sending it to all my friends and family, like, hey, this is the link. Like, I'm sorry you couldn't find it. Like, it took me half an hour to find it myself.
Okay, so I've just sung the praises of ACC. This is one criticism I'll say. I'm on the website right here. It says, "Did you miss any of the action? Thanks to our partnership with Outside, watch the American Crit. Thanks to our partnership with Outside, American Crit Cup races are available for free replay on Outside TV. Watch here. Click in the link. We're on Outside TV now. Rolling around. It's not here on the homepage. Not seeing anything about cycling. We've got some categories down here. Here's bike. Let's go to the bike category and see what we get. Nope. We've got a bunch of mountain bike stuff, downhill, blood road, life cycles. None of this. Some motocross stuff. None of that is ACC. Okay, maybe it's live and events. Clicking on live and events. We have to watch an ad. There's upcoming replays, going through the replays. My point here is that it is impossible to find the races from last year, even though it's basically promised on the homepage that you can just click and find them. So,
there was on the ACC website, there was like a place where all of the stream links were listed like bullet point style.
that
Because
did
I because
exist,
I
and it
used that
doesn't
because I
now.
used that. Okay,
That's yeah,
because I
that's my
used that
point.
to contest some results from Sunday King.
It may
But
be out there somewhere, but my point is like I'm
yeah,
following what should be an easy way to get there, and it's not. And
right.
that's part of the reason I do the watch alongs and stuff is because I know people are having trouble finding it. And I will gladly, whenever people are watching and they're like, where are you getting this from? I'll gladly send them over there if they don't want to watch it with me. But I'm trying to
Right.
broaden the reach a little bit and get some conversation going outside of just watching the stream. But yeah, it could be and should be easier to find, but the quality that Outside is bringing to the production is very good. Someone in the chat is saying that they don't think Outside is free. That's true. Outside, you can pay for an Outside membership, but there are things that are like premium. It's like one of those streaming services where you get on there and you can watch some stuff, but you gotta like Amazon Prime. There's some series on there you can watch just for free, and some where you gotta sign up to watch I don't know, Man in the High Castle or whatever. It's like that. So I mean, according to this sentence, thanks to our partnership with Outside, American Crit Cup races are available for free replay on Outside TV. That doesn't seem to be the case. At least if they are available for free replay, they're very well buried in there. So
Yeah.
that it makes it hard to follow a series when you just can't actually get to the stuff. So we're over an hour, but I want to close it out with some like what we would like to see maybe different from American Crit Cup this next year, and I will start with points wise. So the the point series, the points makeup for these crit series, I think is make and break. make or break for how interesting the racing ends up being. And I think American Crit Cup had kind of a conservative style of points last year. They didn't do anything too crazy. I do like that they had a points preem 7 laps in, points preem 7 laps from the end, and a points preem in the middle. That mixed it up a little bit. Now those points preems weren't. I wish they were worth more, and I wish those points counted toward the finale in a way that would like maybe incentivize some earlier flyers. And then the points spread, I think the way that they were allocating points, almost everyone on your team could get scored. I think it was like the top 5 finishers from your team get scored. So it really incentivized the type of riding that Legion was doing, which is just like stacking as many of your guys in the top 10 as you can, points wise. And sort of the teams that I think maybe would have been throwing haymakers at Legion, like your Cliff Bar, which Cliff Bar has a new name this year. I should know what that is, and I don't off the top of my head. Somebody tell me. Still sponsored by Cliff Bar, but they've got a different name. But teams like Cliff Bar, teams like Butcher Box that are maybe not going to be able to go head to head with Legion as a sprint train are going to have to look for other ways. And if the other thing they want to go for is the team overall, what they're going to end up doing is riding behind Legion and trying to get as many of their guys into that top 25, top 30 positions that score points, which is kind of a boring way to race versus like really throwing those Hail Marys up the road earlier in the race. So yeah, I'd like to see a little bit of reorganization of the points, which I think they're going to do. I don't know exactly what they're going to do.
Yeah, it just seems weird. Like we were talking earlier before this stream started, where there's like a 1,200 point differential between first and fifth place. Like they've got to figure out something to avoid that this year to keep teams more competitive, because you can't just have Project Echelon kind of like running away with it. Sorry.
Yeah. There's
Because
also a
otherwise people
thing.
just won't be as engaged.
It was always a little bit unclear to me. Like Legion is not listed here in the. We're looking at the team points results, and I know they didn't do the whole series, and I know they weren't focusing on it. But is there some like buy-in process that your team has to buy into the series to be counted for points in the series? And if you don't do that, you can race the races individually. I'm just not sure what the setup is there completely, but yeah, you're right. There is also just the duality of like the points. There's the team points and there's the individual points, and it seems like the focus really was on the individual points, and that's one of the things NCL is promising is they're changing the formula completely, where the men's and women's teams combine the points, and it's all about the overall points, not the individual points. So yeah, that's a different format. I mean, we'll see how it works. And again, the devil is in the details. I think I've actually got something pulled up here. Is there anything else you want to see out of ACC this year? Anything you want to see changed specifically?
Yeah, I'd like to see a little bit more variety of kinds of courses. I know like mid-year there was some critiques of the courses all kind of being four corner-ish, like very high-speed drag race style, and I'd like to see a little more variation, maybe more technical courses, things like that thrown in that really shake it up and make it harder for one team to control, and kind of shift the favor into your CS Velo, your Butcher Box, your Cliff Bar, whatever they are now. Teams that are smaller that have to get in that early breakaway, that have to do a weird attack, that have to outsmart your Legion Project Echelon to get the ball rolling.
That just brought it into like sharp focus in my mind. I think the things I would like to see out of ACC this year are more interesting courses. So like let's throw a and we're not going to get it this year, but in the future, let's throw like a Snake Alley in there, like a crazy course.
Yep.
I would like to see more interesting courses. I would like to see longer races, and I would like to see more focus put on the points that they're earning at those mid race. I like the spread of the preems. I like where the preems are in the race. I think there are enough of them to animate the race, and they're spread apart far enough that you can really like focus on them and then recover.
Yeah.
But there needs to be more emphasis. Like if those were worth more points, I think you would see some more interesting tactics
Yeah.
arise as a result.
Maybe if there was like a multiplier of some sort thrown in, like where a mid-race preem was worth double points at like a random time or something, that may incentivize like a weird move. Definitely something to shake that up. And then yeah, like I think races should really be pushing that 90-minute mark nowadays. I mean, even when you watch in person, like a 60-minute race goes by very quickly, and it's not enough to 60 minutes is no longer enough to make an impact on the riders necessarily. And I think a
Yeah,
90-minute race, you may see more things strung out, more interesting things happen later in the race.
I'm gonna say at least 90 minutes and 5-person teams. Jay in the
Agreed.
chat says that he likes that they limit it to 6 people. I think I would like to see even less people. I think that's something we saw a lot of crashes last year, and some of that,
Yeah.
that's a whole episode on its own too. I think, but some of that was just that
Yeah.
the fields were huge. Like if you have 120 guys on a course that is a small limited, there's a limited amount of space on that course, and like it's just going to get hectic.
Yeah.
I think that
And
limiting teams to 5 or even 4 riders would make it where you have to be a little bit more strategic about when you're taking the front.
And I wonder, so like for example, what Sunny King, it was like a pro one and a 2-3 and a 4-5, or a 2-3, 3-4, 4-5, right? Maybe to sort of mitigate that, if you had relatively unrelegated team size in the race, or you would sort of have if you're not on an ACC team, you cannot race, and it's a 1-2 and a 3-4, right? Or something like that. So have the ACC race as its own thing, and you have to be on an ACC registered team to be in it.
I think that's what
Versus like if
all
you're a one, you can just be in the ACC race.
yeah, all these series have been driving at that. Like all these series have been trying to get to a point where they have like the same established roster of teams year over year. I mean, even going back to USA Crits, that's kind of what
Yeah,
they were getting at. I think they even announced that maybe in 19 or 20 that they were going to say like your team has to sign up with USA Crits, and if you're not a USA Crits team, you can't race the pro race. But the American model, you just have so many guys. Like that was a year that Frank Travieso wasn't on a team that was doing that series, and I remember him being pretty vocal about like, "Hey, I've like won these races before, and I'm on a team. It's just not one of these teams. So like, I want to race it." And you had a lot of big name
yeah.
guys who were in that same boat. So I don't know if we're gonna get there, but I understand from like a viewing perspective that it would be a lot cleaner of an experience, like a narrative to follow throughout the season if that
And
was how it worked.
not even necessarily from a viewing perspective, but I mean from a safety perspective and like a field size perspective. If you had a designated ACC race and then a 1-2, right, instead of a
Yeah.
2-3, I think that. And again, you're always gonna have somebody who missed the boat on a team who's not in the pro race, and that's unfortunate. But I think implementing some sort of you have to be on this to do it helps. I don't know.
So I'm searching for in this cycling news article about the NCL that confirmed the schedule that we already kind of knew about. Something about the point system. Here we go. The unique score. This Yeah, the unique scoring system rewards teamwork, combining scores for men and women from separate races, but on the same course, with points from the top 3 riders on each lap of a race, with double points for the final lap. So it does sound like it's like a points race on the track, and every lap counts. I worry they've gone too far in the other direction with that. That if you put points on every lap, you're going to get the Legion thing, where it's going to incentivize someone to just sit their whole team on the front and set pace.
Yep. Yeah, because I mean,
So
if you're Legion and you have a 5 rider train, first 3 riders, I mean, you can just do that all day. I think a randomized, like random number generator, like there's going to be 15 laps that are worth points, and they just call them out
like how they
randomly.
call out beer preems or something at local
Yeah,
races.
right.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of ideas that the more, and I feared this would be the case, the more I hear about NCL, the more I'm like, all right. I mean, we're going to be following it. And it could be, this is what I'll close on. ACC is going to be, they've set the bar. The NCL races could be interesting based on the fact that they're going to have such a weird mix of teams. Like, we're going to see on the women's side some riders coming down from the world tour from like DSM. On the men's side, we're going to see like all these guys coming from Wildlife Generation. They've been racing all those like Tour of Turkey, the races we were talking about earlier. All these people who like haven't been racing each other put in to this environment that has a bunch of money on the line, and we're not going to have Legion there, which if you want to talk about races in the recent past that have been a little bit of snoozers, it's the ones where Legion has just done the Legion thing, just set pace on the front the whole time. So there's no chance of that happening. So I think we may see. I mean, it could be interesting from the standpoint of it's like, a complete. I'm trying not to cuss because apparently YouTube is really coming down on that, but uh, a show of some sort.
Right. I think, especially with some of the NCL team breakdowns, like Sergio Henao, like people who have not historically raced American crits. Like, I think there's going to be a little more chaos with that because they're adjusting from Sergio Henao coming straight from the World Tour to crits. Like,
Yeah,
there's going to be a little more chaos with that because they don't know how to control a crit yet, which is
yeah,
a little different than controlling a Tour de France stage.
yeah. We'll see how Superman Lopez likes it when he's getting chopped by Clever Martinez in the final corner. That's
I can't wait for that post
yeah,
race interview.
that's what I'm looking forward to on the NCL. All right. On that note, we will close it out. But hey, thanks everybody for hanging out. Subscribe to us on podcast platforms if you haven't. And the biggest thing I will say is share this with some people. If you are following this and you're enjoying the discussion, you like talking about bike racing in America, you probably have some friends that you ride with, some friends that you talk about this stuff with. Show this podcast to them. Send them a link to the podcast or the YouTube or whatever. Yeah, we appreciate everybody supporting us. We'll see you guys next time. Got some interesting stuff in the pipeline. I think we'll probably do a couple more shows before racing really starts in earnest.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.